Hello, and welcome to Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist. And today's video is going to be an analysis of leadership analysis of DEI. So let's get right into it because this may go a little bit long. I'm trying not to let it happen. Okay, so let's review real quick leadership concepts. And it's all stuff that we've discussed during the channel. So if you are brand new here and this is the first time you've seen it, I recommend you go back and watch Leadership as a Philosophy, Not a Checklist, that whole playlist, because that's the foundation of what I'm using to do this analysis. So what is a leader supposed to do? The leadership talent is attuning the competence in environmental hierarchies in pursuit of a goal or goals. Okay, great. The other thing that a leader should do is go for high, consistent standards that apply to every member of the organization, right? That's just what you should have if you're a leader. If you're a person in charge, then you got other problems. You should also be fair and equal when you're dealing with your subordinates or people that are in the organization. So then I kind of joked around because I had a list of things, and then I asked Grok, which is the AI that's being done by X, to summarize what employees want from an organization, which is the same list. I came up with it, right? It's nothing new. So inspiration, integrity, empathy, collaboration, adaptability, vision, and positivity. So these are all great, right? These are positive. Have got some empathy. We've got integrity. We've got wanting to inspire people, having a vision of the future, right? Great. And then what employees are looking for from an organization, not just from a leader. So they want to have work-life balance, a comfortable environment, growth, respect for the schedule, transparency from leadership, positive work culture, support and appreciation, and be part of a good team. So notice we're looking at positivity, being part of the team, having a positive culture at work, integrity, right? These are all good things. Next, as we've talked about before, when we talked about the definition chapter, we're going to define the terms. Why? Because in order to communicate, we have to know what terms we're dealing with. So I have a dictionary. I don't want to show it because it's the 1943 Webster's Unabridged Dictionary. It's about 10 inches thick and weighs tons of pounds. It's a heavy, big, thick dictionary. But the reason I went to that one is because I have seen, using electronic dictionaries over the past couple of years, that the words are subtly changing. And if they're subtly changing, then I can be saying something thinking I know what I'm saying, but I'm not, because the quote-unquote official definition has changed. So I went back to 70 years ago, almost 80 now. Well, actually, 78 years ago, to make sure that we're trying to be consistent. All right, so diversity, difference, dissimilitude, unlikeness. There's a great diversity in human constitutions. Great. Equity. Equity is justice, impartiality, giving or desiring to give everybody their due. Now, giving everybody their due, or every man their due, is what have they earned? What achievement have they had? So we're going to make sure that we hand out stuff equally, right? Inclusion is to shut in or include, to confine within, to hold or contain. So if I were to take these three words and put them together, here's a sentence I suggest is what you think DEI stands for. We want a variety of people in our organization that will be treated impartially. That's great. I would like to respectfully say, who doesn't want that? If my job as a leader is to attune the competence and environment, I want the most competent people. I want everybody to be treated fairly. That's what people say that they want if we look at the other things. So if that's what people are looking for, and that's what you should be doing as a leader, why are you paying somebody else to make you do it? You should just do it. It should just be happening, right? So yeah, I want the most talented people to be available to do the work that I want, and I'm going to treat them fairly. Yes, right? I have no qualms about that statement. Here's the problem. This is what people think they're paying for, but it's not what they're paying for. I'll show some examples. So basically, I took those definitions and then inferred sort of an overall sentence. Now, we're going to go backwards. So if you go and look at several DEI programs and their objectives, it's not true diversity. It's we want diverse people. We want representation in leadership. We want representation in positions of power. There's nowhere does it say we need to make sure that at every level of the organization we've got this percentage of diversity, right? There is nobody going around yelling and screaming because road crews are mostly male. Nobody's going around yelling and screaming about power lines or plumbers or anything else like that. It's just positions of power. And absolutely every one of those programs says, well, they'll have two sentences that contradict themselves. They'll say, I'm going to have some examples. We want representation, but we don't want quotas. However, the only way to achieve that is to have minimum acceptable numbers of people. So quotas. So are you putting somebody there to fill a quota, or are you putting them there because they're good? All right. Yeah, here you go. Companies must set minimum percentages of leadership roles that must be fill in the blank. I'm going to call them fibs from now on because I don't want to say anything because then I'll leave out something. Somebody will be upset because I didn't include their cutout, right? I love it. This is not a quota or lower standards, just a commitment to be diverse. Okay, so then if you achieve that percentage, are you done? Well, no, because you're paying somebody to do your diversity stuff, and so they're going to come up with another way to be diverse. So, hey, we met all the category percentages. Let's come up with some new categories. So this is the difference. So equity is scary, right? Equity, this is according to these DEI programs that I've read. Equity is when each person is allocated resources based on their circumstances to reach equal outcomes. Okay, as we know, that's virtually impossible. That would be like me going to a symphony orchestra. You've heard, if you've watched my other videos, you know, I love music, can't play a note. That'd like be me going to the London Philharmonic and saying, I want to be a saxophone player. And I want you to get me up to where I can play the saxophone at this level. Well, one, I don't have the talent. Two, I'm old. Three, how much resources would be required to get me to do that? I should be qualified for the job in the first place, right? I would love to be able to play in an orchestra. Symphony, I love the symphony. I love it. Don't get to go as often as I'd like, and I'm no good at it. So does that just mean I get to walk in and say, I want to be equal to everybody else? That's impossible. None of us are equal. All right. So this equity is a problem. So now we're going to look up. So what happens? We've basically said that everybody has to be treated differently to be the same. We have to have percentages of leadership rules that must be a fill in the blank. And then it's not quotas or lower standards, but we're going to go doing cheetah flips to try to figure out how we're going to fit our numbers. So what happens is you end up highlighting race and gender and sexual preference differences and start trying to make sure that the representation exists. Well, what does that do? That doesn't make a good, positive work environment. That doesn't display integrity. That doesn't show that people are being treated equal. So if somebody works really hard and is really good, they should get paid more and promoted. Not they're going to get paid the same and promoted the same as the person that requires 16 people to help them in 14 different training classes and a bunch of exceptions. Right? So then what do you end up with? You end up with division. So you're divided or separated into parts, percentages of groups. You've got enmity. So now people are jealous and trying to do what they can do to get promoted, which means make themselves more diverse. And then incompetence. So you got people that are not qualified for the job, morally or physically, because they've never been evaluated for that position. And the reason I say fill in the blank is because it's If you promote somebody for any reason other than they're the best for the job, that's the wrong answer, including they're your drinking buddy, they're your golf buddy, they're your cousin, they're your uncle, right? You went to college with them. Unless they're going to be the best at the job, don't give them the job. So that's why I say fill in the blank, because it's like, it's got to be ability to do the job. So then let's go to the repercussions. All right. Now, first of all, there's a law that came out in 1964 that says you can't discriminate by race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. I'll go back to the top where it says we need percentages based off of that. So you're discriminating. So here's the rule. If you want more of something, reward it. If you want less of something, punish it. So if you want more diversity and you're promoting and you're giving all this stuff to people that are diverse, then you're going to have everybody's trying to fragment themselves as much as they can to be as diverse as possible. So then it's, well, my group isn't represented. You know, I'm now 6 fill in the blanks, so I deserve representation. But here's the other problem. Remember when we started out saying the opening statement for the terms DEI is, what did I say it was? We're going to get the best people for the job in an organization and treat them fairly. That's what you think you're paying for, but you're not. What you're paying for, which means you're going to get more of, is division, enmity, and incompetence. I mean, you can see that's what's happening. You don't have the best people in the position. You can go around and look at businesses that have the best people in the position. I mean, my favorite example, I'm going to do a video on them, although I might get in trouble. Go look at SpaceX and look at who's in charge in SpaceX. But you absolutely know that those people are the best at their job because they are doing cutting edge stuff that nobody else has done. So it can be done. If you get the people that are good at the job, you might end up with diversity as a side hustle, right? You might end up like, oh my gosh, look at all these people. Because my assumption was anybody can be, let's see if they're good at it. If they're good at it, here they go. Let's make them happen. You don't know who that is. All right, so I went to look up some common diversity terms, and I found a dictionary that's got 250. One of them had 350 diversity terms. So it's all these goofy acronyms that make no sense. One of them is like Asian American Pacific Islander. And then you look up Asian, and the definition of Asian is Micronesia, Polynesia, Korea, Hawaii, Thailand, China, Japan. I've been to some of those countries, and their cultures are nothing alike. So by making them a group, you're being disrespectful to their, you see what I mean? It's like you start trying to divide, and then there's in the next sentence, I've got a couple of things, and I've already forgotten what 2 of them were. So what happens is when you start promoting people for their fill in the blankness, and then you finally promote somebody because they're great at their job, that person has to overcome all of the crappy examples that came before them. Whereas if everybody knows that you're going to promote and select based off of being really good, and then you pick somebody that's really good, nobody's going to flinch, right? Just think about it when you go shopping. Do you go and say, I want to only go by where the organization was super diverse, but it breaks all the time? Or I want to go get the best thing, and it just happens that the best thing is made by a fill in the blank, right? Remember what Booker T. Washington said, you do a common thing uncommonly well, you'll never go hungry. Booker T. Washington said, go be the best at something and nobody's going to care. That's exactly right. I want the best thing I can get for the money that I've got. I don't care. You know, ooh, I can save a whole bunch of money if I go and get this one that's made by this diverse group of people. Sorry about that. But it doesn't work. You know, oh, I can use a great one. Oh man, this stuff here is made by a bunch of college buddies that decided to start a business and it's crap. I'm not buying it. Don't care. So if you promote based off of immutable characteristics and uniqueness, you're going to end up with people focused on being as unique as possible. In other words, they're trying to make themselves unique when really we all are. I mean, even in my own family, I've got about 2 things in common with my family, and then everything else is different. And that's with people that I know. So what's it like with a bunch of random people that you hire? But here you go. Look at all these, which one is it? So there's the AAP, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. Then there's Black, Latinx, and Native American, but this is only supposed to be used with women. And then there's BME, which I still don't know. And then there's diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because inclusion wasn't enough. So we're going to include you, but if you don't feel like you're belonging, then we have to fix that too. And this MENA, I forgot what that means. But it's just like now we've got more and more things. I was looking at one company, and in their diversity thing, they had 15 different groups in the company that were designed to support these different groups. And then when they had meetings, they were supposed to have representatives from each one of those different groups at the meeting, even if the meeting wasn't, none of those people had expertise in the meeting. So what are we doing? Right? Go back to the beginning. I want the best person. We're going to treat them fair. And I want them to be part of the goal of the organization. Simple. So if you promote and hire based off of the most competent, you're going to end up with the best for the job. And then everybody's going to understand why they got promoted. You know, everybody has seen this happen. Why did they get promoted? Well, oh, really? Yeah, I figure. Or why did they get promoted? Well, they're the best at it. Oh, good. Well, congratulations. Good for them. That's the first thing everybody says. But when you start doing it on this stuff, and then the first thing that happens when you promote somebody outside of this group is everybody that wasn't in one of those groups gets to go and complain and say, I was overlooked. It's because you were too focused on being a bunch of numbers and stuff instead of being good. Now this one, I say this because it's been bugging me for months now. If your assumption is that FIB people cannot be competent, the problem is you. Because I don't assume that. I assume, hey, look, you're interested in this job. Let's see if you're really good at it. Well, you're really good at that. Great. Go. That's the bottom line. So if you're going around saying that we have to do all this stuff because we need exceptions for people, maybe there's a problem. Now, I have seen, especially in education, some people talk about, look, we need to start talking about income level. I'm on board with that because income level applies to all sorts of people. We got to give these people a little help to get them into this institution or into this college because they don't have enough money. Income wise, okay, because income is fair, right? Income. But yeah, if your assumption is that diverse people can't be competent, maybe you've got an issue. Because my assumption is that anybody can be competent. There are all sorts of people that don't look like me that are way better at all sorts of stuff than me. And I don't care. I'm glad. I am delighted that there's somebody better than that, because if you're dependent on me to be good at everything, we'd have a problem. So then we come up to the results. Well, repercussions. As a result, you end up putting people in positions they were never expected to be qualified for. Right? They were only promoted because they were FIB. And then they got to walk around. Oh, I'm such and such. I'm the first FIB for this. I'm the first whatever. I'm the first this. I'm the first that. Well, can you do the job? Right? So a couple quick examples. So in their soul, they know that they're not qualified. They know they don't know what they're doing. So then they become toxic. Then they become a tyrant because they've never been tested to see if they can handle power. They've never been evaluated to see if they can be in charge of a team. They've never had anything looked at to see if they could do it. So that's why it doesn't matter what the FIB is. You promote anybody that's there because they're incompetent, they become toxic. They become terrible because they know. They know. So here's some just quick examples. There was a couple of general officers in the Air Force. This was 2019, 2018. That got relieved because they were abusing their airmen, yelling, screaming, throwing stuff, shaking them, belittling people in front of others. Terrible. Just terrible behavior, right? So they got relieved. And in the article, it's even, it's so shocking that these people had done this terrible thing. No. I blame everybody in their chain of command that wrote their evaluations over their entire career, because they were not like that once they became a general. They were like that the whole time. They just got passed along. Oh, well, we need, hey, we need, we need, And so then you end up with this result where it's this bunch of this terrible stuff happening. One of them, they wrote, supposedly she was super technically smart at this and that. Well, go put her on a team that does that. You know what she's good at. Let her do it. You look at the university presidents. I mean, the most famous one, if you were watching the news recently, was when, it came out that one of the presidents of Harvard plagiarized a bunch of her stuff, had a terrible publication record, was put in a tough spot because of some stuff that was going on campus, and had nothing to say. Well, she had never been she'd never been evaluated for her ability to handle power, no leadership experience or indicators of leadership. She had never been expected to do any of those things. She just got her stuff because of all this garbage. So everybody that was around this person for her career has completely set her up for failure. I mean, how is that good? And so it's like, if you have never been expected to be excellent, and then suddenly it's shown that you're not excellent, well, whose fault is that? It's not the Peter Principle. I mean, the Peter Principle I still need to read that book because I may be using it wrong. But there you go. All right. So solutions. You got to have the discipline and integrity to pick the best person for the job. So that means define the job requirements. And then you got to figure out a way to evaluate the person. I say it all the time. If I am doing an interview or I'm going to promote somebody, and a chartreuse platypus is the best object for the job, the platypus gets the job. I don't care about anything else. If they're able to do the job and they're not going to be a complete disaster for the team, we're in business. That takes discipline, because sometimes it's, but I'm really good friends with this person, and it's their turn, and it's their time. And no. If they're going to be terrible for the team, no. If they can't do the job, no. If the first thing that happens when they get power, they lose their minds and start lording it over people, no. It takes discipline and it takes integrity. But it doesn't hurt, as once you have that environment, then people will go along with it because they know that you have discipline and integrity. Have challenging standards that apply to every person in the organization, right? There's there's lots of examples, but my favorite one is there's a special operations unit in the Army that does tryouts every so often, very rarely, and they have super hard, super challenging standards that nobody knows. You go there and you're supposed to work your butt off and do as hard as you can, and if you make the cut, you make the cut. If as you're going through the assessment, you don't make the cut, you get put on a truck and you're gone. They'll have around 100 people try out, and sometimes they'll have 2 people make it. Yeah, well, nobody flinches because that's the only people that made the standard. But that's challenging standards, and they've never changed. And so the people that are there, nobody flinches. Well, you're here because you made it through and they didn't lower the standards. And then you have to have people that go coach, develop, and mentor to prepare people for these positions, right? Again, we're doing a leadership analysis. You might have somebody who's the most skilled person. You've heard me before, the best salesman, the best this. Should that person be your sales team leader? I don't know. Are they complete jerks when you put them in charge of people? Are they complete? Well, maybe just pay them a little more and go pick the one that's really good at keeping the team going, and that's who you put in the leadership position. And then that sets the best example for the group. Oh, if I want to get into that position, I have to be nice and treat people fairly and have integrity and have discipline. And I have to do this sort of stuff and I have to be good at my job or that job. And then I'm going to get it. Well, then those are what those people are going to try to do. But if it's, I got to backstab, lie, cheat, steal, be some sort of mixture of fill in the blank categories, then people are going to try to do that. So then you end up with somebody who can play the game but isn't good at the job. So that's my leadership analysis of DEI. If you're going to pay for, we're going to hire the right people for the organization and treat them fairly, or we're going to hire we're going to have a bunch of different people work in the organization, and then what you end up getting is we want representation from all these different groups and positions of power. That's what you're really getting. And you can see it from the example. So get rid of the program. Maybe you have a review board where you sit down and say, hey, we really want to make sure that we're not overlooking anybody. You can change stuff, or you can just hire the best and you'll end up with this amazing group of people that are all focused and inspired to do the right thing. You go look at the CEO of SpaceX. I saw an interview with her and they said, what would you say to young women? She goes, well, I would say to anybody, not just young women, go do your best work and people will notice. Right. It's exactly right. If you're doing great work, nothing else matters. Anyway, didn't go as long as I thought, so I'm pretty happy with that. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope you have a great day.